Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Please continue to pray that one day I get to move here to Taiwan permanently. And here's why. I've been here for 2 months now, and I'm the same body, the same mind here, but the substrate of the place makes all of that work a whole lot better. I sometimes overshare, not just at work, but with people I have to associate with back home. And in the United States, it gets taken very differently than what it gets taken here in Taiwan. Let me give you an example. Last fall, I rented a room in Apache Junction. I was working at a school there. And the owner of the home was a high school teacher. And so the two of us had some common ground. But I overshared a little bit too much with her, especially when I first got there. In large part because I don't have anybody else to share these things with, right? I'm single, and most of my colleagues at work are married. She was coming off of a divorce, and when I think back at it, I shared a lot more about my personal situation than she did about hers. I didn't have feelings for her or anything. She's a lot older than me. I did have feelings about our other roommate. I'll get to that in a second. But I overshared. I talked about how during the COVID pandemic, when I was sick and it was hot outside or cold outside, how difficult that was to handle by myself. I overshared about my work, my failings in my love life at the time, and I think she exploited that. 2 months into living there, we had a serious emergency. The water pipe had burst in the home. And during the emergency, the owner realized that she wanted me to move out of there sooner than we had discussed because she kind of got nervous about the situation. That to be fair, she was kind of emotional about the water pipe burst. Water pipe bursting can happen to any home anywhere in the world, but the fact that she was in the midst of it in Apache Junction make her sick of Apache Junction. She did want to move eventually, but I think the water pipe bursting was the final straw. And I made the mistake of trusting her too much. We didn't have anything in writing, and I kind of let it slide. She told me that she was going to get the writing soon because she wasn't sure when she wanted to move, and I kind of just let that slide because like I said, I overshared and I mistakenly treated her as a friend, and that doesn't really go too well in the United States, does it? Here in Taiwan, I think that would go a little bit better. Here we do to take care of each other. Now, the water pipe had burst a week before Thanksgiving. And the owner, she realized that I was finally going to go on a date with a girl for the first time in 2 years at that point. And I was in good spirits. I'd come home from a Thanksgiving party. If I remember correctly, Thanksgiving was November 28th, so it was 2 days before the end of the month. I come home from the party, and she's like, "Do you mind paying your rent now? I'm kind of behind because we just made these repairs." Without even thinking about it, I wired it. I sent it to her through Zelle. I think she took advantage of how high my spirits were that day. I didn't want to disrupt it because let's face it, telling your landlord, "Hey, we got until Monday to pay the rent," it doesn't really end the night well when you just come home from a party that you were having a lot of fun at, right? And I think she exploited that fact. And so I'm still upset every time I think about it. But at the same time, I realized I allowed myself to be vulnerable. What I need to do next time I move into a home, which is going to be in a few days anyway, is to treat the whole thing like it's a business decision, right? So, for example, when I Imagine when I was buying my airline ticket to come to Taiwan. Do you think I would accept? Oh, just come to the airport. The ticket will be around $1,200, but we don't know yet. Come to the airport. We don't know what time it's going to take off. We don't know what, Can you imagine an airline ticket that looked like that? Right? I would never buy something like that. Right? I don't know why I do it with my housing situation. That's it's right. Uh, just but here in Taiwan, I don't think people will exploit stuff. If you became careless like that, I think the other side would realize that hey, something's not up, right? That's why I want to move here. We have more of a togetherness mentality. Um, at the workplace, I do this a lot too. I let out too much about myself. It gets exploited. I think too many of my colleagues and even my students know too much about my comings and goings. They know my relationship matters, right? I think even the girl here at Taiwan, I overshared stories about that way too much with my colleagues. And so it burns. And I don't know why people need to exploit these little kinks, right? I mean, just because you know somebody's dating somebody halfway around the world, why do you need to exploit that? Be happy for them, right? So, for what do I mean by exploit? So, my colleagues will know that I need something in a certain way, and they'll leverage that to their benefit, right? During the COVID pandemic, my colleagues knew I was lonely, and they exploited that to get the days they needed covered and all that fun stuff. Uh, it's just really toxic, in my opinion. Leave a comment if you've ever had that done on you, or you can confess if you've ever done it to somebody at work or with your housing situation or anything like that. I often have in terms of doing it to other people. I'm terrible at it. I never know where I stand in a situation. For example, that house I was in back in November, I have no idea how much the owner really needed my rent money. Right? Had I understood it and she really needed it, I could have wielded some power there. Right? But I don't know. And you got to remember, I was working with really heavy art, and if I needed to move on a dime, that would have been very tricky too. I don't have a support apparatus, right? It's not like I can pick up a phone. Hey, can you come over with your truck and help me? I don't. And the landlord knows I don't have that apparatus, and I think she exploited that part of the equation as well. Meanwhile, I know nothing about her. I don't know how her financial situation looks like. Does she really need my $800 or whatever it was, right? If I knew that, right, then maybe I could have used it in some way. I don't like using stuff like that, though. I wish we just treated as teamwork, right? This is the Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum.